Hello, hi, it's Paul here from SET English. Nice to see you again on a slightly overcast morning in Manchester in the northwest of England. What I'll be doing today is talking about 5 really common errors that people make in their writing. So we'll be talking about writing today. What's interesting is that these errors that people make are very basic. You can imagine that every day at a school like ours, we're reviewing lots and lots of writing. Okay, we've looked at tens of thousands of essays and letters over the past few years. These are the errors that seem to feature all the time in the letters of the students that we haven't taught. Okay, so in our writing syllabus, we have 1 week where we do grammar and 1 week where we do writing practice. And the people that haven't done that language with us, they make these errors. So I wonder if you make these errors as well. Now, what we're interested in doing is hearing your comments. I've got some tasks for us to do. So if you're out there, if you're watching and you're interested in joining in, giving your opinions, correcting some sentences with us, pop your name in the chat box. Let us know where you are. I'll say hello. We can get started. Okay, that's the idea. So we've got Rika. Hello, Rika. Nice to see you. I hope you're going to help us, Rika. Okay, I've got some errors here that hopefully you'll be able to help us with. I think it's interesting. You don't have to be an amazing writer. You don't have to be an amazing, complex sentence architect in order to pass OET. But we do need the basics to be right. And when you see these errors, you'll think, oh, they're easy. But these are the kind of errors that people make. Okay, so these are the ones that we need to fix. So Rika said she will try. Thank you, Rika. You can help us. All right, okay, let me switch to our study document, which is here. So these are the errors. I've got 5 and I've got them all covered up at the moment. But I'm going to go and show you the first one. Okay, first one is related to our old friend, the passive. Okay, so if we just remind ourselves, the passive is constructed of the verb to be plus the past participle. That's how we make it. Be plus the past participle. Now, there are a number of ways that the passive can go wrong. There's a number of ways that we can make errors with it. Okay? We can use it when it's not necessary. We can forget to use it, or we can just get it wrong when we try and use it. So let's have a look what we've got here. So what do you think about that one? Rika, you can help us. Mr. Smith admitted to hospital. What do you think we should do there? How can we fix that? Any idea? Exactly, Rika. Was admitted. Yeah, it needs to be Mr. Smith was admitted. And I think that Alan looked at this. Alan looked at this yesterday when he was talking about his entry verbs. And I think that's a really good way of looking at it. It's a common mistake that people make. So I know that you should know that one. What about this one? What's the problem there? It's another problem with the passive. What's our other problem with this one? Can anyone fix it for me? At the moment, we've got Rika being our super student who can help us. But if anyone else is out there and wants to help us, then you can. Rika, fantastic. We don't need was. With the verb undergo, we don't put that into the passive. So it's Mr. Johnson underwent. Yeah. A cholecystectomy. Yeah, gallbladder removal. And then we've got our final one. What's this one? Okay. Mr. Johnson will be discharged today. Can you help me with that one? What do we have to do with this one? I'll give you a clue. There's something missing from this one. Exactly, Rika. Obviously, Rika is an expert at the passive. Okay, thank you, Rika. All right, so let's put that there. Will be discharged. So we can either forget to use it, we can use it where we don't need to, or when we actually identify a good time to use it, we can get it wrong. Okay, so these are our problems here. Obviously, the passive affects verbs, doesn't it? Okay, so there's a really, really common kind of language error that happens in OET writing all the time. Let's do another one. Let's move on. Tense. Now, tense is a very big issue because you've got timeline paragraphs, request paragraphs, you've got introductions, and all of these are going to require a range of tenses. So it's possible in OET that you use the present simple, the present continuous, the present perfect, the past continuous, the past simple, the past perfect, the present perfect, the present perfect continuous, the future simple. These are all different aspects of tenses that we might use in OET. Rika is saying something very nice. Thank you, Rika. I'll post that on our page. Rika is saying this. I learned from you. Thank you very much, Rika. Okay. So one of the most common tense issues we find is this one. Okay. Have a look at that and see if you can understand what the problem is. See if you can see what the problem is. Now, it's not 100% clear at the beginning, but again, Rika, I assume, Rika, that you've passed OET because you seem to be very good at this. Absolutely, okay. So in this situation, you've got this phrase, during hospitalization. And during hospitalization doesn't have a tense, okay? It just means there's a period of time. Now, what we need to know is that period of time finished or is it still open? Now, the thing is, if she will be discharged tomorrow, you've got to ask yourself, where is she now? And the answer to that question is she must be in the hospital. And if she's in the hospital now, then that means her hospitalization has not yet finished. That means her progress has not yet finished. So it needs to be during hospitalization, Mrs. Harris has made good progress. It has to be has made. Okay, so people often get confused between the present perfect and the past simple. This is just one example of how tense can go wrong. Okay, there are others that people make mistakes with as well, but this is one. So here, because the hospitalization has not yet finished, then we don't want the past simple. The past simple is for time periods which have finished, for moments in the past which are now over. That's what they're for. Okay. Your exam 17th of August. Okay, Rika, I think your grammar's definitely strong enough. Okay. So let's go through these ones, and I've got a few more. Relative clauses. Okay, I've got another example. Have a look at this. What's the issue there? I am writing regarding Mrs. Smith, who is recovering from pneumonia, requires ongoing care at home. Now, relative clauses, in this case, it's a non-defining relative clause. What they do is they add extra information to a sentence, normally about a noun that's in the main clause. Okay, so when you use relative clauses, it's always main clause and a relative clause. You can't have a relative clause on its own. Okay, and in this case, the relative clause is here. Okay, relative clause is going to be in yellow. And that means that the main clause is in green. And the main clause is the purpose for writing the sentence. Okay, that's what we're really trying to say. This bit in the yellow, we're just saying, okay, it's interesting, but it's not necessary for the sentence. Okay, so you've got to ask yourself, what is the main clause telling us? The relative clause is fine. Who is recovering from pneumonia? Fine. It began with a comma. It's finished with a comma. But now look at what the main clause is saying. The main clause is saying, I am writing regarding Mrs. Smith, comma, requires ongoing care at home. Oh, that doesn't make sense now, does it? I am writing regarding Mrs. Smith requires ongoing care at home. That's what you call a run-on sentence. Okay, so we've used Mrs. Smith as an object, but we've also used Mrs. Smith this way as a verb, as a subject. So you can't do that. So you've got a number of choices. Okay, you've got a number of choices. So let's see what we could do to fix that. Well, we could either say, I am writing regarding Mrs. Smith, who is recovering from pneumonia. That's fine. I'm happy with that. And then say, she requires ongoing care at home. That would be a nice, simple way of doing it. Or I can do the same thing as this one, but just put a simple word in. One simple word I could put in there. I wonder if anyone knows what's the simple word that I could put into that sentence to make it work. Rika has already told us. It's and. Take this comma away and put and there. Okay, that's it. That's all you need to do. You just have to extend that relative clause, which is here. Okay, so the problem we had there was that the main clause didn't make sense on its own. But if we put and, what you're doing is you're saying the main clause finishes there, the relative clause begins here, and I've put and in to extend the relative clause, and now I know who requires, and the grammar is good. All right, so very common relative clause problem. All right, next one. As well as. Okay, as well as has loads and loads of grammatical issues with it, which we've looked at before. The problem here is that we don't have the right listing, and we don't respect as well as. As well as is generally followed by nouns or noun phrases. It's not followed by a verb. So what we need to do here is we need to do this. We need to go from, in this, if you look at it, we've got Mr. Smith. What does he do? He lives, comma, he does. And then we've got as well as. And then we've got does. Okay, he lives, he does, as well as does. That's what it says here. So if you think about it, what you've tried to do there is this. Let's say X, Y, as well as Z. That's the way you've done it. Now that does work for and. Okay. You could say Mr. Smith lives alone, does his own activities of daily living, and does regular exercise. That's one way of fixing that. Okay. Let's put this down here and get some more room. I can change this to and. That would work. Because and, one, it follows that pattern of listing. And two, you can follow and with a verb. As well as requires something different. As well as goes like this. X and Y, comma, as well as Z. That's how. There's two different ways that you can do listing in English. And every list is a variation of that. So what we need to do here is we need to do two things. One, we need to change the order in the list like this. Okay, Mr. Smith lives alone and does his own activities of daily living, and then a comma, comma here, and here is as well as. But the problem is, you cannot follow as well as with a verb. You have to follow it with a noun, some kind of a noun. Hi, Annette, nice to see you. So this needs to be changed to a gerund, and it needs to be doing. All right, that's what we need to do. I know it seems strange, but that's what we have to do. As well as, I feel like as well as is my enemy, guys, because I've corrected it so many times. People use it so often when they don't understand how to use it. So go and learn how to use it. There are some strange exceptions. And then to finish, countable, uncountable, and articles. Okay, so there are different types of nouns in English. Some are countable and some are not countable. So a pencil, that's countable. You can have 6 pencils. Sugar is not countable. Okay, you can have a granule of sugar, but you can't have a sugar. If you ever hear someone say a sugar or a water or a coffee, what they're saying is a spoonful of sugar or a bottle of water or a cup of coffee. All of those are countable. Spoonful, bottle, cup, they're countable. But sugar, water, and coffee are not. Surgery is one of those uncountable nouns. Okay, so this should have no a. And the confusing thing is, the thing that I think confuses people is that it's very similar to this word, operation. Now, operation is countable. Surgery is not. So we don't want an a with surgery. And on the other side of it, there are often nouns that people forget are countable or don't know they're countable. Wheelie walker, wheelchair. For some reason, these words frequently get expressed incorrectly. It should be a wheelie walker. Okay? Okay, so our wheelie walker has been provided to aid Ms. Day's mobilization. Now, if you are making any of these errors, they are easy to change. They're easy to fix. Okay? They're basics, and it just requires practice. Practice of the right things. It's not just about practice. You've got to practice the right things. So as the famous basketball player said, it's not practice makes perfect. It's perfect practice that makes perfect. So you can come and find this kind of language help from us. We've got loads of amazing videos and live classes. And we also obviously do things which are a bit more complicated. Participle clauses, relative clauses, and tenses are really complex. And we do lots of live classes on those, and we've got lots of videos. So it's been really nice showing you these. Try and avoid making these errors and see your language score go up. Also, your professional tone will go up as well. So have a really nice day, and we'll see you soon. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.